So last month I had a doe that blew coat, meaning she shed really heavily right before a show, and I was complaining about her, and everyone was like, "We want to see Raven!" And she's finally to the point where I'm okay with showing her on camera. For reference, this is her as a baby and what I was supposed to take to show. This is what she did a day before show. I was not happy. I came out to the barn, I was freaking out. She was just blowing coat all over the place. And this is her today. So as you can see, her entire coat has been completely blown out and is growing back to its regular length. And she still has her little baby marks on her forehead. So yeah, that's what a very heavily shedded coat looks like in Silver Fox. And I normally don't have it happen that bad. Normally they just shed out, it's nice, it's even, but for whatever reason she dropped her entire coat all at once. It's really funny to watch the Rex do it because they lose chunks at a time when they heavily blow their coat. And for whatever reason, Raven just wanted to do this right before a show. But now she just kind of looks like an Angora that has decided to get a quick shave. When she initially had blown her coat, she was like almost bald except for the new hair just barely coming in. So she's looking a lot better. But for those of you who are worried, she doesn't have mites. We've checked her for worms. We have gone over all of the standard procedures to ensure that this is just blown coat because of how extreme it is. She just wanted to be bald for a little while. So Penguin's litter is about a week away from weaning age, which means it's about time to start going through and deciding who we're going to keep and who's going to go. And although I have a preliminary idea of who I really want to keep and who I don't, I am a little disappointed that we do have this little one right here that is a boy, because I really was hoping for it to be a girl. But I was curious to see if y'all wanted an individual review of each kit where I set them up and point out the pros and cons of each of them. Alright, let's talk about Penguin and Strawberry's most recent litter. They are 7 weeks old and next week they'll start weaning. First we have this little buck, we call him Le Pew. Overall I find him just to be very long and very flat. I also don't like the look of his hindquarters as it doesn't really have a nice full round shape. We're not going to keep this guy in our program or allow him to go to any other program. He's going to be a hard cull. Next we have this little Vienna marked black buck. A little disappointed he's a buck and not a doe because overall I like the balance of him. He just seems to look very well. I like his high point. I love his rear end. He's a little longer in the shoulder than I would like him to be. But if he fills up on that top line a little more, he might be a very good buck to keep. At least long enough for my Blue-Eyed White program to breed him into that, seeing as though I think he already has a better type than Gigi. So he's going to stick around for a little while. Next we have this little buck, and he's not horrible, but also there's just something off about him. I think his high point's a little forward, which is throwing off the overall roundness of his shoulder, and is also throwing out the back end on the smoothness. I'm going to grow him out to see if maybe that helps, because, like I said, there's something that's slightly off, but I'm not sure what, and it might go away with just getting a little more weight onto him, because he is one of the smaller animals in this litter. Next, I have this little, very low-colored tricolor kit. The only color she has is a little bit on her ears, and she has a little spots down her back. Doesn't have a nose mark, automatic cull. But if you're looking for type, she's a little too long in the shoulder for my preference. Okay, a lot too long on the shoulder. But her high point is nice, and she's balanced over the back end, but I really don't want to breed this animal back into my lines with no nose marking, and also her having that long shoulder. So she's also going to be a cull. This is the girl everyone's obsessed with. This is Daisy. Daisy is staying for at least a year or so. I'm going to put her into my Blue-Eyed White breeding program. I think she has a really nice balance. I really like her hind end. I want to see how she fills out more along that high point into the loins, but I do like how short of a shoulder she has. But after we're done using her and breeding her, my sister has called dibs on this one to take home. So Daisy won't be with us for very long. And then finally, this little doe, we have deemed her Strawberry Jr. because her markings are almost identical to her father's. Overall, I think this little doe is going to be a keeper just from the sheer standpoint of I already think that she has a better type than her mother. I am going to hold on to her and see how she fills out a little more though, because I want to see if she fills out along that loin, because she's very round but not very deep. But overall, not a bad litter. Y'all, they got me. They got me. I just do this for the money. All the money. Look at all of the money I've earned this month. Off of all of my rabbit... Oh wait, those are quail sales. I haven't sold a single rabbit this month. Wait a minute. Oh crap, I'm broke and I've been coming out of pocket to feed my rabbits. Well shit! Somebody tell me where that money is. Damn. Also, those cheap and nasty cages aren't cheap and definitely aren't nasty. I would have been a lot better off getting some kind of pet carrier. Or an easy pen. Instead, I like wire cages, which are extremely easy to sanitize. But if y'all are interested in how much it costs to start up a rabbitry, I have some excellent resources for you through multiple colleges when it comes to both meat rabbits and show rabbits. In fact, this college is really good at kind of breaking down kind of what you're looking at to pay for rabbits individually and as groups, and kind of gives you an idea if you are trying to get started. And if you think you're gonna make money on this, good luck. It's an expensive hobby. I do earn everything back when it comes to raising things for meat. Like, it's cheaper for me to raise my own meat than to buy meat from the grocery store. But if you're talking about returns for selling rabbits, I don't sell very many. I sell more quail. And again, like I've talked about before, it covers my feed costs. If I'm not going to shows. If I'm going to shows, I can kiss my profits goodbye. Or sometimes I can buy an iced coffee. We've talked about this before. At the end of the day, we're not talking about justifying anything. We are looking at the most recent studies that have come out from accredited colleges that are both on the side of meat and veterinary medicine. Because at the end of the day, it is not about the ethos and pathos arguments about how we as humans feel about a practice. It is about the better welfare and management of our livestock. So if you can prove through accredited sources that are peer-reviewed and tested that a way of caring for animals is better, then I will change the way I do things, of course. Because at the end of the day, I want what is best for my livestock. But if you cannot show me those studies and you're just going on the idea of what you think is right and wrong, then I am not going to change. That is perfectly fine for you, and you can continue doing what you are doing, but I will not change my lifestyle to accommodate your emotions. With that being said, I'd like to remind everybody that proper animal husbandry is the proper care and management of your animals. And that a rabbit is a rabbit is a rabbit. It does not matter if they are for meat, if they are for wool, if they are for pet, or if they are dual purpose. Biology and ecology are all the same. So I'm a show breeder, so I breed most of my rabbits for show. And the standard of perfection for Mini Rex broken pattern dictates that there must be a nose marking or butterfly over the face to ensure that the rabbit can be showable. Meaning if the rabbit does not have these things, it is an automatic disqualification. And because markings like this are genetic, it's not very smart to keep it in the line because it'll keep popping up. So if something doesn't have a nose marking, it's an automatic cull. Meaning it just ends up on our dinner table. Because along with raising for show, I also raise for meat. So anytime I talk about culling an animal from a program or not giving it to another program, it's just going on our dinner table. Because at the end of the day, these animals are livestock, and they do need to meet a standard in order to stay. It's like the old breeder proverb of keep the best and eat the rest. In order to improve your stock, you do have to be tough, you do have to be harsh. But even if that tri-colored kit had a nose mark, odds are I wouldn't be keeping her for my program or for any other program because she was too long in the shoulder. She should look like a ball, and instead she looked kind of like that. And something I've been working really hard on is shoulders in my line. So keeping her would have been a step backwards anyway. So these are 3 out of the 4 guinea fowl. They are idiots. And behind the guinea fowl is Lucky. Lucky was actually raised with the guinea fowl and now thinks that she is a guinea fowl. There's the other guinea fowl running away. And of course we have Asshole and his girls. And of course we have our quail, which are also dodo birds. I don't know if you meant just birds or other kinds of dodo heads, but we have other animals here as well. Alright, so I'm going to try to explain this the best way possible with pictures to kind of give you an idea on the babies at this age and what we're looking for. So this is Lulu at about 7 weeks old. And if you look, she has very even positioning between her shoulders, her high point, and her rear to give her this very rounded look. Remember, we're looking for her as ball-like as possible. And if you look on the shoulder here, she has a very nice tight shoulder that's almost invisible. And then this was Lulu at 10 weeks to kind of give you a better idea of how she looked at this point. Again, very rounded, very much so filling out. Now compare that to LePew. He doesn't have that balanced look on the front side. Now in the back, he doesn't have a horrible high point or rear end, but when we put it together, we have this very flat line on top, instead of that nice rounded ball that we want. And if we look at the shoulder here, it's very pronounced. So instead of disappearing into the animal and making it look like a ball, we have a nice chunk about 2 inches of shoulder. And again, it gives this very flat appearance. Again, compared to this rabbit, if you look at the green line up top, how it's very rounded coming back. Ball is what we want. Flat is what we don't want. Here is what a good type looks like on an adult as a nice rounded ball, compared to a senior that is a bit more flat along the top line and has a longer shoulder. Note, this doe is not very well posed. Her foot is a little too far forward, but I can tell you right now, she was very flat with a very long shoulder. So yeah, I hope that was a little more helpful when you're looking at long shoulders.
I finally found this growth chart. It gives an idea to what you want your growth rates to be.
Alright, let's talk rabbit male versus female. The only way to tell male and female in rabbits is by sexing them, i.e. looking at their genitals. You're going to take your rabbit, push down on the tail, and then up, and look. If it looks like a taco, it is a girl. So you are just looking for an up and down slit. When looking at a boy, you're looking for a burrito like so. It's going to come out a little more and be a circle. But that is how you tell the difference between boy and girl. So we have a few new mamas that are supposed to be having babies within the next week, so it's time to switch over our cages. Every time I switch cages over, I sanitize. So I pulled this cage from the barn, and this cage has gone about 2 months without a good scrubbing, just because it's had a litter in it. So right here you get a mixture of dust and urine particles that sit on the cage that you want to scrub off. So if you look on this cage, this dust-like substance is a mixture of dust and urine, and it creates this almost hard shell that's really hard to get off. So I'll take a scrub brush and I'll brush it over, and then I'll also use a terry cloth after most of it's over to run it down. I use a mixture of bleach and water to do this. And then after it's clean, I just let it sit out in the sun for a little while to dry. And before I take them back into the barn, I will scrub the floor one more time with that alcohol mixture, just to get rid of any bacteria or germs that might have been touching the ground. And again, I sanitize cages anytime a rabbit is getting moved around or a new rabbit is getting put into a cage, just so I don't spread any potential ick. I mopped my barn floors today. They have never been cleaner. I'm so proud of them. But on the subject of nesting boxes, I have 2 different kinds that I use, and it just depends on breed on what I prefer. So for our meat rabbits, we just use a basic white tote like this. You can get them at Walmart for like $3 to $5 depending on size, and they're extremely easy to sanitize. For our mini Rex, we just use these wooden boxes, which I don't like as much because they're very hard to sanitize and they stain. Then we'll line the bottom with pine shavings and grass hay because it's super soft. Let's talk about what we look for in a silver fox when we are going to show. This is Eduardo. He is my silver fox buck. He is a fresh senior buck. He has gotten 2 best of breeds under him in an intermediate buck status. So here next weekend, hopefully we will continue putting legs on him, and as he continues going to shows. He is super sweet. I absolutely love this buck. He isn't quite as good type-wise as Wiley is, but when it comes to personality, I definitely prefer him. So when we're looking at a silver fox, I want them to have a very plush standing fur. So when I go backwards on the fur, it should remain standing up. His fur has come in beautifully as he has reached senior status. I'm also looking at my silvering. I want an evenly distributed silvering that is both enough but not too much. Eduardo actually has a very, very nice balance in his silvering. He looks a little too dark on camera, but if you look at him in person, it's perfection. So when we get him posed up, we want a commercial type. The difference between a commercial type and a compact type is in a commercial type, you do want some kind of shoulder. You also don't want them to be too long. So if you look at Eduardo here, he has a slight shoulder here going into a beautiful high point and then coming down on the butt. I just hit his tail. I'm sorry, baby. So he has this gorgeous, gorgeous shape. And then also his height is as high as his depth. So he is very rounded going through here. And then when you pull your hand up through here, you don't want to feel any pin bones or any kind of spine or anything. You just want it to be very nicely muscled. I will say with him just coming into senior status, you can't feel his pin bones, but he is a little thin right here. I do want to see more weight come in here as he does continue on to his senior weight. But again, just like on the compact type, we want them as high as they are wide, but we do want that slight bit of shoulder. So that's kind of what I look for in my silver foxes. I am super excited to breed this buck coming up in the next month or so. We'll be breeding him to Vanessa, and he will be having his first kits. So Eduardo has just been amazing in our program, and he is super sweet, and I just love petting him. He is, like I said, he's not quite as good type-wise as Wiley, but I much prefer working with him just because of his personality, because he is just a little love bug. But yeah, this is Mr. Eduardo.